From viral superstardom to setbacks, silence, and a long road back. This is the story of Sheck Wes, a kid who grew up between two worlds, the concrete jungle of Harlem and the vibrant streets of Dakar, Senegal, who captured lightning in a bottle with one of the most explosive anthems of the decade, then suddenly vanished from the spotlight. But behind the scenes, his journey wasn't over. It was just evolving. This is a story about identity, pressure, resilience, and what it really takes to survive in an industry that builds you up in seconds and forgets you just as fast. Today we break down the rise, the fall, and the redemption of Sheck Wes. Sheck Wes didn't come into the game polished. He came in raw, unfiltered, and full of energy that felt like it could explode at any moment. Born Kadamu Razul Shek. Fall in 1998 in Harlem, New York, Sheck's life was split between two radically different worlds from the very beginning. His parents were Senegalese immigrants who brought with them the rich culture, music, and traditions of West Africa. But Sheck was growing up in Harlem, a place with its own legendary history, its own sound, its own rules. As a kid, he wasn't just navigating neighborhoods, he was navigating identities. In Harlem, he was surrounded by hip-hop culture, street ball, fashion, and the hustle. But his family would send him back to Senegal for extended periods, sometimes for months at a time. There, life moved differently. The language, the music, the rhythm of daily life. It was all a world away from the concrete and chaos of New York. This constant back and forth wasn't easy. Imagine being a kid trying to fit in, but you're always the outsider. In Harlem, you're the kid who disappears to Africa. In Senegal, you're the American kid who doesn't quite belong. That tension, that feeling of being caught between worlds, became the foundation of who Sheck Wes would become as an artist. His family wasn't wealthy. His mother worked hard to provide, and Sheck learned early what it meant to grind, to hustle, to make something out of nothing. He watched his community, absorbed the energy of the streets, and started dreaming big. Not just about music, but about everything. Basketball, fashion, a way out. Before rap, he was hooping, and he was serious about it. Sheck played basketball all over New York, in parks, in gyms, in tournaments. He had dreams of going pro, of making it to the league. He had the height, the athleticism, the competitive fire. For a while, basketball felt like his ticket, but life had other plans. He started getting noticed for something else. His look. Tall, striking features, natural charisma. He got scouted by modeling agencies and started booking gigs. Suddenly, he was walking in shows, appearing in campaigns, rubbing shoulders with the fashion world. It was surreal. A kid from Harlem who spent summers in Senegal, now in the middle of New York's fashion scene. But even then, something was missing. Music was always there, in the background, in his headphones, in his soul. He grew up listening to everything. The drill and trap sounds of New York, the Afrobeat and Mbalax rhythms of Senegal, the raw energy of punk and rock. Artists like 50 Cent, Dipset, Travis Scott, and Kanye West shaped his understanding of what hip-hop could be. But so did the music of his parents' homeland, the drums, the call and response, the unfiltered emotion. Sheck wasn't trying to fit into a box. He was trying to create his own sound, something that reflected all of him. The Harlem Kid, the Senegalese son, the hooper, the model, the dreamer. And when he finally stepped into a studio, all of that came pouring out. The moment he stepped in the studio and let loose, everything changed. Because Sheck Wes didn't rap like everyone else. He screamed. He roared. He brought an intensity that felt less like a song and more like a release. Like all that pent-up energy from bouncing between worlds, from grinding in the streets, from dreaming bigger than his circumstances, finally had an outlet. In 2017, Sheck Wes was still relatively unknown. He had been working on music, recording loosely, experimenting with his sound, but he hadn't broken through yet. Then, one day, he walked into a studio with producer 16 Road, and they started working on a track. It was supposed to be just another session, but what came out of it would change his life forever. The track was dedicated to his childhood friend, Mo Bamba, who was on his way to becoming an NBA star. Shek and Mo grew up together in Harlem, playing ball, dreaming big. The song wasn't just a tribute, it was a celebration of where they came from and how far they'd come. Shek recorded it in one take, screaming into the mic with raw, unfiltered energy. No polish, no overthinking, just pure emotion. Mo Bamba dropped quietly in 2017. At first, it didn't do much, but then, slowly, something started happening. The song started spreading, not through radio, not through major label push, through the people. It started playing at college parties, then high school football games, then NBA arenas, then clubs, then everywhere. By 2018, Mo Bamba wasn't just a song. It was a cultural phenomenon. It became the anthem for chaos, for energy, for moments when you just needed to lose your mind. Sports teams adopted it as their hype song. It exploded on social media with thousands of videos of people going wild when the beat dropped. It hit number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100. It went multi-platinum. It became one of the most streamed songs of the year. The song structure was part of its genius. That slow, hypnotic build, and then the explosive drop that made crowds erupt. DJs knew exactly when to play it for maximum impact. At NBA games, the moment that beat hit, arenas would shake. In clubs, people would literally climb on tables. On social media, the Mo Bamba challenge took over, with people filming their wildest reactions to the drop. For Sheck Wes, it was surreal. One day he was a kid from Harlem trying to figure out his path. The next, his voice was echoing in stadiums across the world. His life changed overnight. Suddenly, he was getting calls from major labels, from artists, from everyone. The kid who was bouncing between basketball courts and modeling gigs was now one of the hottest names in music. But with that success came something he wasn't fully prepared for. The weight of expectation, the pressure to do it again, and the realization that the industry doesn't always care about your journey. They just want the next hit. Success brings opportunities, but it also brings chaos. And for Sheck Wes, the chaos came fast. Suddenly, Sheck Wes was signed to not one, but 2 powerhouse teams. Kanye West's Good Music and Travis Scott's Cactus Jack. Think about that for a second. 2 of the biggest, most influential artists in the world saw something in him and wanted him on their rosters. It was a dream scenario. His debut album Mudboy dropped in October 2018 and it hit the charts hard. debuting in the top 20 of the Billboard 200. The album was raw, aggressive, and unapologetic, just like Shek. Tracks like Live Sheck Wes, Die Sheck Wes, and Chasing Paper showcased his signature energy. He wasn't trying to be lyrical in a traditional sense. He was trying to capture a feeling, a vibe, a moment. And for his core fans, it worked. They connected with the authenticity, the hunger, the refusal to be anything other than himself. But after that moment, things slowed down. The industry expected another Mo Bamba. Radio wanted another smash. Labels wanted another viral moment. But lightning doesn't always strike twice. And Sheck Wes wasn't interested in chasing a formula. He wanted to evolve, to experiment, to grow as an artist. But the machine doesn't always allow for that. The pressure of following a global hit can crush artists. And Sheck Wes felt some of that weight. There were release delays, creative differences, management conflicts, industry politics. Being signed to two major camps sounds great on paper, but it can also create complications, conflicting visions, scheduling nightmares, too many voices in the room. And then there's the public pressure. Every time Shek teased new music, the comments were the same. Where's the next Mo Bamba? Drop another hit. Why isn't he blowing up again? The expectations were suffocating. The industry moves fast, and if you're not constantly feeding the beast, it moves on without you. Audiences waited. The hype cooled, and slowly, Sheck Wes slipped out of mainstream view. Not because he stopped working, not because he lost his talent, but because the industry cycle is brutal, and staying on top requires more than just music. It requires timing, luck, and a machine behind you that's fully invested. This wasn't a dramatic fall. It wasn't a scandal. It wasn't a headline meltdown. There was no public beef, no legal trouble, no career-ending controversy. It was something much more common in the music world, but something we don't talk about enough. A young artist trying to navigate fame, expectations, in an industry that moves faster than it supports. An artist who had a moment, but then had to figure out how to build a career beyond that moment. And that's one of the hardest things to do in music. The world had moved on. New viral hits emerged every week. Music trends shifted. The sound that felt fresh in 2018 was already being replaced by new waves, new artists, new energy. New artists took center stage. The industry's attention is finite, and it's always chasing the next big thing. For many fans, Sheck Wes became the Mo Bamba guy, and that label can trap a career just as fast as it builds one. It's a blessing and a curse. The song gave him everything, but it also became the only thing people wanted to talk about. Every interview, every comment section, every conversation, it all came back to that one track. And for an artist trying to grow, trying to show new sides of himself, that can feel like a cage. But Sheck Wes didn't quit. While the mainstream wasn't watching, he was working hard. And this is where his story becomes about resilience, about refusing to let one chapter define your entire book. He kept touring internationally, performing in Europe, Africa, and across the US. His shows were still packed with fans who knew every word, who still felt that raw energy. He wasn't filling arenas anymore, but he was building something real. A loyal fan base that wasn't just there for the viral moment. He started experimenting with new sounds, working with different producers, pushing his music into darker, heavier territory. He wasn't trying to recreate Mo Bamba. He was trying to evolve, to show that he's more than one song, more than one moment. And his fans never stopped screaming the lyrics to Live Sheck Wes, Die Sheck Wes. That track became an anthem in its own right, a reminder that Shek's impact went beyond just one hit. He had a voice, a presence, an energy that people connected with. Outside music, he kept hooping, and not just casually. In 2021, Sheck Wes made headlines by joining the Basketball Africa League, becoming one of the few rappers to actually play professional basketball. This wasn't a publicity stunt. This was him going back to his first love, proving that he's an athlete, not just an artist. He played for Rwanda's Patriots BBC, bringing his competitive fire to the court. It was a full circle moment. The kid from Harlem who dreamed of the NBA, now playing professionally in Africa, the land of his roots. Basketball and music have always intersected in Sheck's life. The discipline, the grind, the performance aspect, it all translates. And his time in the Basketball Africa League wasn't just about hooping. It was about reconnecting with his Senegalese heritage, about giving back, about showing young kids in Africa that dreams can take many forms. And musically, he started teasing a new wave. Darker production, heavier drums, more introspective lyrics, and that signature wow energy fans love. He's been working on new projects, collaborating with producers who understand his vision, and slowly building toward a comeback that's on his own terms. He's hinted at new music that reflects his growth, not just as an artist, but as a person. The kid who was bouncing between Harlem and Senegal is now a man who's lived through fame, pressure, setbacks, and is coming out the other side with a clearer sense of who he is and what he wants to say. The redemption wasn't a headline moment. It was a rebuilding process. A reminder that Sheck Wes is more than a viral hit. He's an artist with a story still being written. He's a kid from two worlds who refused to let one moment define him. And he's proof that sometimes the most important part of a career isn't the peak. It's what you do after the fall. Sheck Wes is a prime example of the new generation of artists. Global, genre-bending, and unpredictable. He represents what happens when cultures collide. When an artist refuses to be put in a box. When someone chooses authenticity over algorithm. He rose fast. Faster than almost anyone expected. He fell quietly. Not with a bang, but with the slow fade that happens to so many artists who can't sustain the impossible pace the industry demands. But he never stopped fighting for his own lane. He never stopped creating, performing, evolving. And that's what separates the artists who disappear from the ones who endure. Now, he's carving out a new chapter. One built on longevity, not virality. One built on artistic integrity, not chasing trends. One built on the foundation of a kid from Harlem and Senegal who always knew he was meant for more. Whether he drops another global hit or forges an entirely new identity, one thing's for sure. Sheck Wes hasn't said his last word. His story is still unfolding, and the best chapters might still be ahead. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, is Sheck Wes underrated, overrated, or right where he should be?